Saunders of Miniature Landscape Hobbies here in Bangkok, Thailand. This is where I've been the last few weeks. I've been touring all through both Cambodia and Thailand, some of my favorite countries. But it wouldn't be right to be a fan of all things building a miniature and not coming to a local landmark in Bangkok. And that is this building here, Mega Plaza, a whole mall given over to miniature building and models. Let's go in and take a look.
Thailand is an interesting country known for many things, but mostly for its food. And this is for a good reason, because the food was awesome. But if you're wondering, some of it was also just kind of weird. Cheese-flavored ice cream, though, isn't that bad. And the ice cream cone in a bag, I highly recommend it. But something else I was happy to see in Thailand was the passion for miniatures. Everywhere you go, there are miniatures of the fine-scale, dollhouse, and collectible variety. When we landed in the country, we went to a nearby mall in the Bangkok suburbs, and one of the first things I saw was a Tamiya store. Wow. We were only traveling with carry-on at the time, so I couldn't go shopping. But here was a selection of rare model kits and hobby tools, some of which I did not even know existed. Later on in our trip, though, after some time in the Bangkok city proper, I started hearing the rumblings about a near-mythical shopping mall deep in the heart of the city. Featuring over 600 shops on 6 levels, this mall was called Mega Plaza, and it was all dedicated to models, miniatures, collectibles, and toys. Oh yeah, I also heard it had a food court and a McDonald's. The problem here was that most stores in Bangkok are more like collections of flea market stalls, so there was not much to go on for determining whether or not the actual shopping options at this mall were a good idea for us to visit. So, rounding up my sons Hastings and Mitchell, we decided to bite the bullet and set out into the heart of Bangkok to see Mega Plaza for ourselves. My hope is that if you ever end up thinking about going to see Mega Plaza, this video will help you understand just what there is for you to see and maybe buy. Fortunately for us, Mega Plaza was only 2 kilometers from the hotel where we were staying. Unfortunately, it's also off the beaten path for tourists, and language barriers were problematic. Anyways, after accidentally being dropped off at a boat pier and driven around the city for a while by confused taxi drivers, we arrived at Mega Plaza. So we went inside. We were greeted by rows of tightly packed vendor stalls, all overflowing with stock spilling out into the hallways. The individual levels were supposed to be themed by category of store, but that honestly seemed a little optimistic. Don't get me wrong though, there was cool stuff here. A lot of it, in fact. Of particular interest to us was a store right on the ground floor, a Wargaming store. Basically, we had discovered a mini games workshop dealer. The quarters were tight, but the selection was good, and there were some nice models on display. Unfortunately, the only non-GW models in the store was a small amount of bolt action, but no other historicals or popular systems were present. And this was, unfortunately, the only Wargaming store in the building. I would say if you're looking for 40k or Warhammer though, you're covered. Moving on, we saw toys. Lots of them. There are a variety of name brands and a ton of knockoffs. If you like building toys like Lego or Mega Blocks, there are serious options. But be warned, the popular toy brands are heavily mixed with knockoffs. Instead of Disney's Wall-E, you can get Whirly. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you might have to settle for Happy Potter instead. And some brands just didn't make any sense. Are you a fan of Violent Bear? I am now, if only because of the name. Deeper into the mall, we discovered collectibles of every conceivable type. From Marvel superheroes to Sailor Moon. It's all there. And this, I would argue, is the primary reason you would want to go to Mega Plaza. There is store after store of collectible vendors. Superhero and anime themes were the most common, but there was some pop culture and movie stuff too. And this. I don't know what this is. Then I hit a personal jackpot. There are several scale model stores with common brands like Tamiya and Dragon. And most importantly, at least for me, a range of tools and supplies. I tracked down some rare supplies that are hard to get, and that made me pretty happy. Also, as you move on, you'll see some airsoft stores. There are some interesting things there, but these were not on my list for shopping. Hastings, however, was pretty happy to discover a massive selection of Gundam. Next to collectibles, Gundam seemed to be the most common line of products in Mega Plaza. The prices all seemed comparable to what you would see at home in Canada or in the US, but the selection was simply staggering. I would say at least 75 to 80 stores were packed with model robots of all descriptions. For the Gundam fan like Hastings, Mega Plaza has it all. Like the toy selection though, one thing to watch out for is counterfeit model kits. Hastings found Barbatos from Iron-Blooded Orphans for half price, and he did not realize at the time that it was a knockoff. He ended up buying it, and it looks okay. When he builds it, he'll likely let us know if it adds up to the real thing. In general though, you're likely best to stick with the original license, so you support the intellectual property associated with your favorite brands. Moving on, we discovered a lot of camera stores selling antique equipment and vintage games and consoles. This is not my area of interest, but if it's something you're into, the variety of games, consoles, and cameras would probably make the trip worth it. There's quite a few RC car dealers as well, with some stuff that looked pretty interesting. At this point, we were nearing the top of the mall, where we found a decent food court, though we opted to go back to level 1 for McDonald's for lunch. After that, we rounded up our purchases and headed back to the hotel. Hastings had some Gundam kits he couldn't find in Canada, and I had a few rare Tamiya products for my builds. But, unfortunately, with no Napoleonics or model trains to be seen, Mitchell went back empty-handed. So, all that's left now is to provide a quick shopping guide for those interested in Mega Plaza. If you're like me and interested in Wargaming miniatures, there's not really very much other than the GW store to look at. If you like Games Workshop stuff though, you're covered. For any other system, you may want to look elsewhere. For scale models and their supplies, RC cars, video games, and airsoft, there's a selection that you'll definitely want to see. There's a ton of variety, and the brands and quality spans the whole gamut. For toy collectors, you should probably be wary. If collecting specific brands is your thing, it's pretty hit and miss. If, however, you're okay with knockoffs of some of the more popular sets, especially Lego and Technic, you'll find some interesting options. For dollhouses and diorama builders, the tools are all that Mega Plaza could offer. The other supplies just simply aren't there. Dollhouse miniatures, however, seem to be everywhere else in the various malls in Thailand, so you should be covered. For model train enthusiasts, sorry. No trains or scenics of any type were anywhere to be seen. In the end, if you're looking for collectibles or Gundam though, you are the big winner. The variety and amount at Mega Plaza is staggering. If shopping for these items is your objective, Mega Plaza is likely to be your new favorite place on the face of the earth. Be sure to plan carefully when you go, and make sure you plan who you're going with. There are a ton of models, collectibles, and toys at Mega Plaza, but there really isn't anything else. So if you're not a fan of these things, don't go. And maybe you should think about leaving your mother-in-law at home. So there you have it. My guide to the Mecca of hobby shopping experiences, Mega Plaza in Bangkok. I hope the information helps if you're ever in the area, or if you're just curious to see what's out there at this mysterious location. Thanks for watching. Next week I'll be back with more coverage on wargaming, miniatures, and model builds as usual. Miniature Landscape Hobbies is your source for miniature, terrain building, and diorama content, and we can't do it without your support. We want to build a community to ensure that the wonderful art of building a miniature is accessible to everybody. To participate, please consider joining on Patreon. For $4 a month, our Patreon members benefit from 10% off at Joe Saunders Terrain in the Etsy store, 5% off paints and hobby supplies at Torchlight Games, free access to STL files, a mention in our credits, and early access to our videos. Please check it out and consider joining. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Please remember to subscribe, press the bell button so you get immediate notification on our videos, and until next time, remember to keep building life in miniature.